You've probably heard the rumor that the Vikings, those wild, lawless raiders from the north, shared their wives, that marriage meant nothing to them, that anything went in the halls of the Norse. It's one of those facts that gets passed around because it sounds exactly like something Vikings would do, and it's false. There is no record of Vikings sharing their wives. None. In fact, they'd have been horrified by the idea, because Viking law came down on adultery like a hammer. One Arab traveler who lived among them wrote that a man or woman caught cheating faced a punishment so brutal, I'm not going to describe it here. Cheating was not a joke to them. It could get you killed. But here's the thing. The truth about Viking marriage is so much stranger than the rumor. Because while a Viking man wasn't sharing his wife, a rich one might have had several of them, plus more women besides.
And when you follow that fact all the way down, it leads somewhere nobody expects, to an answer for the single biggest question in Viking history. Why did they start raiding in the first place? It runs deep. Let's get into it. Start with what the outsiders saw, because it's damning. Around 1,000 years ago, a German cleric named Adam of Bremen wrote about the Swedes, and he was blunt about it. A man there, he said, has 2 or 3 wives at once, or more, depending on how rich he is. And the princes and the wealthy? He says they have so many they can't be counted. And he wasn't the only one. That Arab traveler who spent time among the Norse recorded the same thing. Powerful men with multiple wives, and beyond that, enslaved women kept as concubines. He wrote that one Rus ruler kept 40 concubines. And it wasn't just foreigners gossiping. Their own sagas say it too. One famous Norwegian king had a pile of wives and concubines at the same time. And at one point, when he wanted to marry a Danish princess, he divorced 9 women to do it. 9. That's not a marriage, that's a collection. So the picture is clear. This wasn't wife swapping, it was hoarding. The Norse practiced what's called polygyny. The rich and powerful took multiple partners, and the number you got was set by one thing and one thing only: how wealthy you were. Your women were, brutally, a scoreboard. Now hold on, because here's the part that flips everything you think you know about Viking women. You'd assume, in a world like that Norse women were powerless property. They absolutely were not. And this genuinely surprises people. In Norse society, a woman had a say in who she married. She could own property. And here's the one that stuns everyone. She could file for divorce. A Viking woman who was unhappy could stand up, declare the marriage over, walk out, and take her property with her. In the same century, women across most of Europe had nothing close to that. Viking women had rights their neighbors could only dream about. So Norse society is this bizarre contradiction. Women with more freedom than almost anywhere in Europe, living inside a system where a rich man could hoard wives, and where enslaved women had no rights at all. Both things at the same time. And it's that second half, the hoarding, that quietly set the entire Viking Age on fire. Because think about what happens when the rich take more than one wife each. There are only so many women. If the powerful men at the top are taking 2, 3, 5, 10, then somebody at the bottom gets none. And that's not a small problem. That's a whole generation of young men, poor, landless, with no property, no status, and absolutely no prospect of ever getting married. Ever. Now think about what that does to a society. You've got a swelling population of angry, ambitious, frustrated young men with nothing to lose and no future at home. They can't inherit. The family farm goes to the eldest son. They can't buy their way up. They can't marry. There is exactly one way out. Go get rich,
fast, somewhere else. And that's where the ships come in. Some researchers argue this is one of the real engines behind the Viking raids. Those young men climbed into longships and sailed out to England, to Ireland, to France, not just for gold, but for status, for the wealth that would finally let them come home and be somebody. And sometimes, horribly, they went to take women directly. Captives were carried back from raids. The men who went Viking were, in part, men trying to win the life they'd been locked out of at home. Now, let's be honest, because this is a theory and not a settled fact. Historians argue about it, and the raids surely had a bunch of causes tangled together. Better ships, weak targets, rich undefended monasteries, land pressure at home. And a lot of what we know comes from outsiders like Adam of Bremen, who had his own reasons to make pagans look scandalous. So take it as a serious idea, not gospel. But the core of it holds, and it leaves you with a genuinely unsettling thought. We picture the Viking as a monster who raided because he was born vicious, because savagery was in his blood. And the truth might be so much more human than that. He was, quite possibly, a young man with nothing. No land, no money, no wife, no future, who got into a boat because it was the only door out of a life someone else had already closed. Vikings didn't share their wives. The rich ones took them all. And the men who couldn't get one? They sharpened an axe, pushed a ship into the water, and went looking for a way to change that. The Viking Age may not have begun with a lust for blood at all. It may have begun with a generation of young men who simply couldn't get a life at home and decided the whole world would pay for it.